What is going on, guys? My name's Jake and I'm part of the CS Cast. Today I'm going to be doing a Cinema 4D and Photoshop tutorial. Let's get right into it. So we're going to be starting in Cinema 4D and we're going to start off with a blank slate here. And yeah, let's get started. Alright guys, so when you open Cinema 4D, it would look like this by default. What you're going to want to do is just quickly go to your render settings and make sure it's on 1920 by 1080. This is default HD quality, and you're going to want to make sure the resolution's on 300. This is my preference. It doesn't really have to be like this, but this is usually what I go by. And then for save, you want to make sure it's to a PNG, and you want to select alpha channel, which basically means it's going to have a transparent background when you export it. Then when you click these three little dots here, you can name the file that it's going to be saved as. So I'm just going to name it as tutorial render, and I'll click save, and I believe that's everything. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is go to MoGraph and click MoText. This will add a text to your blank slate. Alright, so once you have your text, you're going to want to go under Align, and you want to make sure the alignment's to the middle, so that way you can move from the middle instead of having it from the left side. And then you can change the text to whatever you want. I'm going to change it to, I'm just going to change it to tutorial. And I'm just basically teaching you what I think looks best in my personal preference. This is just the style that I like to use. It's really up to you, and this style pretty much goes over every single skill that it takes, I guess, to have a successful render and a successful Photoshop composition. So basically, you start off with the Seago UI font, and I believe it's not the greatest, but it will work. But in this case, I'm just gonna change the font to something a little bit more appealing. So I'm gonna go through all my fonts. I have actually a lot of fonts, and I'm actually just gonna look through my fonts. I'm gonna click the first one and just click the arrow keys to look through them, and I'll be back when I find a font. Alright guys, I believe I found a font that appeals to me, so I'm gonna stick with this one. I think it's there by default, but if not, you can go on to dafont.com or .ca. I'll leave a link in the description. You can download pretty much any font you want. It looks really good, this font, I believe, so I'm gonna stick with it. And what I'm going to do is, under depth here, I'm going to drag it up just so I can make it a little bit thicker. Maybe 140 is about right. Maybe 135. Okay, we'll just keep going down. 130. There we go. 130 is not bad. I think it looks pretty nice. So let's render this out and see what it looks like so far. As you can see, we haven't added any lighting effects yet, so it's pretty plain. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click my MoText layer, and I'm going to click C on my keyboard, and that's basically going to make it editable. This is pretty much the same function as in Photoshop. If you rasterize a layer, it's going to make it editable. So we're going to highlight all of these letters. As you can see, there's a green box beside each letter. You're going to highlight every one of them, or you can click on the T and hold shift and then click on the L. Just do Control C, and then you can delete your MoText fully, and then do Control V. Now I'll paste every single one of your letters back, and this way they're editable by each individual letter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do the first one, and then after that I'm going to speed it up so that you guys don't have to watch through it. So basically what you want to do to, I guess, condense the letters is you want to click your Move tool up here. You're just going to bring them together a little bit till they're touching just a tiny bit. You don't want to have them touching too much, and we'll just make them touching a bit. And then we're going to get our rotate tool. You can rotate it vertically or horizontally individually, but I usually like to use the free rotation, which is if you click anywhere within this blue circle, it will move it anywhere you move your mouse. So that being said, it's gonna be a slight rotation, but it's definitely gonna count, and it's just to give it a little bit of that effect that's kind of distorted, kind of more condensed in and more natural looking instead of straight margined. So I'm gonna do the rest of these and I'll be back after. Alright guys, so I've done all the letters. I believe it gives it this more natural looking effect, and it's just an effect that I like to use. It's up to you guys. It's really up to you. I think it looks half decent, but this is really not my main focus. 3D work is really not my main focus. I know my way around the program, so I thought I'd bring you guys a tutorial. With that being said, I think I'm going to lower the depth a little bit because it looks a tiny bit too thick. But I think what I can do, yeah, I can just select all of these layers here. I'm going to turn the depth down to probably 100, I think. As I said in my Motivational Mondays, it's all about curiosity. So if you don't think 100 is good, try a different number. I am actually starting to like 85 now because I tried it out. So don't follow what I'm saying. It's up to you. It's your preference. Just make sure you're trying new things, because if you're just copying what I'm doing, yes, it's helping you for sure, but it's not giving it that unique touch that your own creative mind has. So without further ado, I'm gonna get into the rest of this tutorial. Once you're satisfied with your text, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over to our layers tab, and we're just gonna select all of them by clicking and dragging, or you can select the first one, hold shift, and select the last one. Either way works. We're gonna do Control C and then Control V to duplicate it, and then we're gonna have two of them. So this is where we're gonna have to sort of fiddle around and make it to our preference. On the second layer, this one right here, we're gonna turn the depth down. Alright guys, once you duplicated your text, then you're gonna go to Object and you're gonna turn your depth down about 6 or 7. This is where the curiosity comes in handy. I mean, I usually go about 10, maybe 8. It's up to you. And you just want to make it so that you got some room from the first one. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go, starting with the T, you're just going to move the text back so that you have an equal amount of space from the front and the back. So as you can see, this white highlighted line shows that we have some room from the front and the back. If you don't know what I mean and you have any other questions, just please email us. I'm glad. I'm open all the time. I'd be glad to answer all of your questions. Alright guys, so once you have the text that we just adjusted all selected, what you're going to do is going to go to caps, choose a start cap, and it's going to be a fillet. It could either be fillet or fillet. I don't know if I'm saying it right. A lot of people say it differently. Alright guys, once you got all your adjusted text selected, basically what we're going to do is we're going to go down to caps down here, and we're going to choose a start cap, which is going to be the fillet. I don't know if I said that right. There's a lot of people saying it differently, but just correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. And we're going to choose the end cap as a fillet as well. And then we're going to turn the radius down probably to about 1, I would say. That's usually what I do. As I said earlier, curiosity definitely comes in here too, because if you don't like 1, try 2. Just see how it looks. I personally think it's too big, but you can always reselect it and just change it again, which I'm going to do. I usually like to keep it around 1. It's all up to you. And I'm just going to keep this at convex because I think it looks the best. And we're just going to render this. So as you can see, we have a little bit of a beveled edge now, which is a good effect. Now let's get into the materials. Alright guys, now for the materials, all you're going to want to do is go down to this bottom bar right here, and you're going to want to double click. That's to create a new material, or you can click create new material. Either one works. I usually like to double click because it's a lot faster. And then you're going to double click on the material, and this is where you can choose the color of your material. I'm going to use a light blue in this case, and then these are all the settings that you can choose for your material. So there's transparency, reflection, environment. All these are the more advanced ones. The reflection is a little bit self-explanatory. I usually like to choose a texture and put it on Fresnel, and that makes it more realistic. And then we just turn the brightness down a tiny bit and the mix strength a bit. That looks like a nice clean reflection. And then what we're going to do is turn some luminance on. This basically makes the ball shiny. We'll just turn the brightness down a lot. maybe 6%. It's really up to you. And I believe that's everything. Yeah. Alright, so that's our material. We're going to add a new one, but we're going to want to make it the same as this one. And what we're going to do is we're just going to change the color. So we're just going to click on our material once, do Control C, and then Control V. And then we're going to click on our first material again, and we'll just go to color, and we'll change the color to, I guess, any color you want. I'm going to make it, I guess, kind of relative to what we had here. Make it a little bit darker, I guess. Yeah, let's try something like that. Alright. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to click the first tutorial text. We're going to click the first T and we're going to hold shift and click the L. This selects This selects our inner text. We're going to want to put the light blue material on our inner text right there. Not too bad. Now we're going to want to select the other tutorial text with the cap on it, and we're going to put the darker material on it. Now, with that being said, if we render it here, doesn't look too bad, but now what we're going to want to do is just make it look a little bit more realistic. We're going to want to add an area light. So what we're going to want to do is just click and hold on this light and then drag to area light. This area light is going to have to be dragged backwards a bit and maybe up. This is really a curiosity thing too, because it just depends how things look. You know, you're going to want to position the light depending on how it looks. So we're just going to render that out and see how that looks. That doesn't look too bad, but I'm going to add another light, and it's just going to be a spotlight. And this circle is basically the only place that gets lit up, so we're just going to drag it over. And with this rotate tool up here, we can rotate the light downwards. We're just going to want to drag it over here. This is just because it was a little bit dark up there. I think that's looking pretty nice so far. This is just a basic tutorial, but I will definitely get into some more of the grunge materials and things like that within another tutorial that's more advanced after you watch this one and you sort of know the basics of this program. I'll show you one grunge material before we bring it into Photoshop after we've finished the lighting. Alright, so we rendered that one. Now what I'm going to show you is just the grunge material. I'm just going to change my render settings to change this to tutorial render 2. Close that. Now what we're going to want to do is, if you have a grunge material with you and you already know how to load it and things like that, then go right ahead and do that. But I'm going to be going through that over again in a new tutorial because it does take a long time to get familiar with it. So what you can do if you're a little bit more advanced is create your own grunge texture. I will also be going through that in another tutorial, which will take quite a while to sort of get you familiarized with the whole process of it. But for now, I have grunge materials loaded and I have a bunch of material packs from other designers just for the sake of the tutorial. So to load a material, if you have one saved, you're going to go to Window and you're going to go to Content Browser, and then in here you're going to go under Computer, and then under OSC is where you're going to want to save your material so you can actually access it through Cinema 4D. So I have material packs folder right here, so I'm just going to open this up. And here are all my material packs. I'm not sure which one has the good materials in it, but I'm going to choose a clean grunge. Then we'll bring the soft texture in. Select all the textures here and we're going to switch it to frontal again. I believe this one's going to be nice. Now actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the caps on the tutorial text just because it's looking a little bit thin for this type of style. Alright, now we're going to render this out, see what it looks like. I don't mind this. I think we can fix it up in Photoshop. So what we're going to do is I'm going to change the angle of it a tiny bit. So I'm just going to select it all. I'm going to do the rotate tool. I'm just going to rotate it a tiny bit. Alright guys, once we got the angle correct, I think I'm just going to render this one. Let's just check it out. Not too bad. I mean, it could be better, but for the sake of the tutorial and the time that I have, I'm just going to render this out. Alright guys, so that concludes the Cinema 4D part of this tutorial. This will be posted and the Photoshop tutorial will be posted shortly after, just because I didn't want to make one long 20-minute video. I'd rather make two separate videos. So all in all, thanks for watching the Cinema 4D, and stay tuned for the Photoshop. Thanks.